But for everybody, I always call it the golden ticket. Your purpose and either the business that you're meant to start or the way that you're supposed to market the business that you've already started so that it is aligned with your purpose is it's got to be a combination of three things. So one, it's got to be, you have to be working in alignment with your natural skill set, right? So like your divine gifts are skills that just come naturally to you. Then the second component is what do you really love to do? And then the third thing is how can you combine those two things? So how can you combine what you're naturally good at with what you love to do? And how can you combine those two things to then create value and impact in the world?
Welcome to the Confident Mompreneur Podcast, where you can find solid advice along with warm guidance on motherhood, business, relationships, health, wellness, and everything you need to help add to your confidence and zest for life. And with interesting guests from all around the world, you'll hear real and relatable stories with impact and nuggets of wisdom to help you or the mompreneur meet the challenges of life with clarity and success. Now let's welcome your mompreneur host, Carrie Blaney.
Well, welcome on today, Erica. I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. We were just talking before she hopped on that she's in a different location than normal because sick kids at home. Really ultimate mompreneur.
Yes, I have moved my laptop to the floor. I am on the floor of my bedroom right now.
Love it.
Yep, it happens. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
It's real life. That's
It's real
exactly
life.
what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. And it happens no matter what level you're at. Like here, it happened to me when I started my business, and here I am with a multi-million-dollar company, and it still happens to me now.
Yes, I love it. Makes it so relatable for all of us and shows
Yeah.
it never changes.
No, it does not.
Well, thanks so much for being on here today, especially having a sick kiddo. We understand that that can complicate things. So thanks for being here. Do you want to start us out by introducing yourself a little bit about who you are, what you do, your family, all the things?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Erica Carrico, and I started out as a life purpose coach. So helping women to figure out, what are they here for? What is their purpose here on earth? What are their divine gifts? What is their original medicine? And then the next step in my work is how can I turn that into a business that not only is going to impact others so that I can have the impact that I'm here to have, but also going to create wealth and allow me to live the lifestyle that I want to live too, is really what the foundation of my business is. And yeah, like I said, I started out as an individual coach, and now I have a multi-million-dollar company that works with thousands of women around the world. I have a team of 15. And it's got a very different, life of its own right now. But I am a single mom of two kiddos. I went through a divorce. That was a COVID divorce. And yeah, so doing it all, growing and scaling a company while single momming it. And it's been a wild ride, to say the least.
No kidding. There was definitely like a huge influx in divorces around COVID.
Yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
like, the year after COVID, that my divorce happened. So definitely get the single momming thing. What really drove you into coaching, and how did you like create the ability to scale the coaching program? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of like coaches really struggle with is like, especially if you're only doing like individual one-on-one coaching, like how do we scale from where we start to now where you are?
Yeah, well, I think too, yeah. So the first part of your question, I got into coaching. Well, my major in college was psychology. So I always felt like I was here to make a difference. I always wanted to work with people. I was always like a self-development junkie and ended up getting a master's degree in nonprofit management because I wanted to be of service. So I've always been in that type of a mindset. But I ended up in corporate recruitment when I was 26 because everybody was like, you need to get a real job. I was traveling, trying to figure out, what I really wanted to do. And everyone was like, you need to get a real job. So I got into corporate recruitment, and I kind of figured, well, I'm going to help people find jobs, right? I'm going to help people find jobs. I don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to help other people figure that out. And I spent maybe close to 9 years in that space, and, typical burnout story. so depressed, so anxious. I felt like I was living, earning millions of dollars for a company that already had millions of dollars. My life had no meaning. I was literally just showing up and building somebody else's dream every single day. And my feet would hit the floor and it was just dread. Every day it was dread. It was like, I felt like I was dying. And I knew I had a cancer diagnosis also, which I think
Mhm.
was finally like, okay, I literally have to make a change or I am going to die because of the way I'm living my life is killing me. And so I saw a life coach actually and quit my job. And yeah, I recognized that I wanted to be of service in a way that wasn't necessarily therapy, but really working with women to help them, figure out, I suppose, my journey was leaving my corporate career and starting my business and moving into this work. And I wanted to help other women do the same, just because it was so life-changing for me. So that was ultimately how I got into coaching. I started out as a career coach, just coming from recruitment. It made sense. So I was helping women to figure out what is a better career that's aligned with my soul that I can really love and not hate. And then it turned into, over the years, actually, let me help women leave corporate and start their own businesses that's aligned with their purpose. So it gradually morphed. And then it got to the point where I was so busy. I had like 35 one-on-one clients at a time with a wait list of 6 months.
Wow.
And I was, again, kind of hit another burnout space, which a lot of entrepreneurs talk about, but a lot of people don't talk about it. But it's so possible to hit burnout in your business as well, where you feel that heaviness of like, what am I doing? And so that was when I moved to the scale. Like that was when I knew I needed to scale, right? And I needed
Mhm.
to shift the model of my business so that I could serve more people with less time. And that was probably in 2019. And that was when I created the group programs. Awaken Your Purpose is now an online course, and Soul Business Accelerator is a hybrid program where there's 200 women right now in that container. And it's a combination of online modules, lots of group coaching, and then they get private coaching calls as well. So that program is completely scalable, and that has allowed me to cross the $1 million mark in my business.
That is so cool. Well, and I love that you took like the skills and like kind of like you said, those things that are already kind of inherently part of you and created like this coaching program that was very much like what you needed in that moment. And then where was able to kind of transition that over time as you grew with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, in the coaching space, really what I tell my students is you need to be 2 to 3 steps ahead of who you're coaching, and just being able to give somebody that clarity, that direction, and a plan is priceless.
Yeah, it really is. So you talked a little bit about like going through a divorce, and then you also said that you had a cancer diagnosis. How did that all kind of fit into this and how you've had to grow and scale over time?
Yeah. Well, the cancer diagnosis came in 2016, and that was when I was breastfeeding my youngest at the time. I had a toddler and my marriage was already falling apart. I knew pretty early on in my marriage that it was a mistake and it was not meant to last. But you have young kids and you're in it and you're just like, well, I'm in it. So my philosophy at the time was I'm gonna make this work until my kids turn 18. I'm gonna hang in there. And yeah, then the cancer diagnosis happened. And through the process of really taking a spiritual and an emotional and a physical healing journey, I realized that so much of my life was based on societal expectations of what I should be doing with my life and based on my family expectations of what I should be doing with my life. And there really wasn't much in my life that was there because I intentionally wanted it to be there. And so part of my journey was really letting go of everything in my life that wasn't serving me, that didn't feel like a hell yes, that was there because I felt it should be there.
Mhm.
And then building it up with things that were like so aligned with who I was at soul level. And that meant, leaving my marriage. And that didn't happen for 4 years. It took me 4 years to actually leave after my cancer diagnosis. But it also then, meant leaving my corporate career. we moved states and I moved out of the house and up leveled my home into everything that I wanted my home to be. And yeah, it's been a real process of letting go of friends and a whole new, creating a whole new friend group that really is in alignment with my life now. So everything honestly has shifted. And it's all been part of my journey, I suppose.
No, I love that, and I think it's so true. Like I look back at some of the most like pivotal shifting points in my life, and usually there was some level of like crisis or trauma that made me kind of like reevaluate what those priorities were and really shift things. And it's so interesting because I feel like society has kind of normalized that, you're working for the weekends and you just everybody hates Mondays, everybody hates their jobs, everybody kind of hates their life, type of thing. And it's so normalized. And then something happens to you and you're like, I just don't want that anymore. And the fact is, we don't have to stay stuck in those places where we're feeling burnt out, where we're feeling frustrated, where we, hate our jobs, our marriages, our whatever. We can always shift.
That is not the point of life. I literally look at it as like, that is not why our souls came here. Our souls did not come here on this earth at this time to hate our lives. That is not why we're here. That is not why we're here. It's just not
Yeah.
it.
Well, and I'm sure that you've seen this with like all of your coaching clients and stuff too, is that they are going through similar journeys. How do you really like help people find whatever it is that they need to shift into at that moment? How do you help them kind of find their gifts and like recognize those and turn them into actual profitable careers or businesses?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll give you the three main pointers. I have on my website is a course under Work With Me called Awaken Your Purpose. And it's my entry level course. And that's really 10 weeks to getting clear on exactly what that is. What is my purpose? And then also it takes you through a strategy where you figure out what are all the potential businesses that I can start that are in alignment with my purpose. And then at the end of the course, you end up choosing one and going with it. And then we can help you build that from there in my program, Soul Business Accelerator. But for everybody, I always call it the golden ticket. Your purpose and either the business that you're meant to start, or the way that you're supposed to market the business that you've already started, so that it is aligned with your purpose, is it's got to be a combination of three things. So one, it's got to be you have to be working in alignment with your natural skill set, right? So like your divine gifts are skills that just come naturally to you. And a lot of people need a third party to kind of point that out because we might even just take our gifts for granted, right? Like maybe you're super compassionate and you've always thought that that was a downfall, but it's not. It's like it could be your superpower. But what are your natural skills? And then the second component is, what do you really love to do? And so many women, I mean, I've coached thousands of women at this point, and when I say that, sometimes it's like deer in the headlights. Like they honestly don't even know what they love to do because their whole life revolves around work and kids and stress and bills. And it's like they don't even know anymore what they love to do.
Mm-hmm.
So really reconnecting with that is so important also. And then the third thing is how can you combine those two things? So how can you combine what you're naturally good at with what you love to do? And how can you combine those two things to then create value and impact in the world? And that is like the magic, perfect combination for, when you're in that space and you're in that, you're using that formula, that is like where the money comes into play. That's where the abundance happens. The money starts to flow. You love what you're doing, right? That's just the perfect combination right there.
No, that is so good. And I love that combination of three things. I think it's super important. But I also love that you recognize that, especially as women who have been conditioned to think of ourselves last, sometimes we lose those pieces of ourselves, and it can be really hard to like find or recognize those within ourselves.
We've all been there, myself included. I think I remember when my first child was 2, and then I was ready to get pregnant with my second. I just looked in the mirror and I was like, I don't even know who is staring back at me. I am a shell of myself. And then you throw a second baby in the mix and it's 5 years down the road. And yeah, I did not know myself or my life. We've all been there.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's like really the perfect starting point if you're like in that space where you literally look in the mirror and don't recognize yourself anymore, is start to create that time and space to reconnect with who you are, to try new things and see if it works for you, or, just like put yourself out there again and really start to prioritize yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
What are some of the steps that you like walk your clients through? So, how do we like start to recognize our own gifts, especially because I feel like as women, we're really bad at recognizing those really great parts of ourselves and then like finding a profitable business that fits within that. Because I feel like another hard thing about being a woman is that we love to give ourselves. And so we have a really hard time taking the things that we naturally love or are good at and turning it into profit because we just want to give it away to people.
Yeah. That is 100% our thing. Well, first of all, I think people like not everybody wants to profit from their purpose. I think there are a lot of people that are happy in their jobs and they're just looking for something a little bit more fulfilling on the side.
Yeah.
A lot of times students that come through my Awaken Your Purpose program, they figure out that they want to do this extra work as volunteer or they want to do this work as a way to give back, right? But there are those like me who I wanted my business and my purpose to be my full-time thing. I wanted to earn a living doing it and also have impact at the same time. So I think, obviously I have processes that I've developed over the years that are really detailed and specific and they're inside of the course. But one, it definitely takes a third party most of the time to figure out what your gifts are. Like we can't, like I always say, go and ask your partner, go and ask your mom, go and ask your kids, go and ask your best friend who knows you really well. And if you said, what do you think what are their three gifts that you think that I have that are like special and unique to me? And ask them because most of the time we can't see it ourselves. We can't because, like you said, I think also as women, we're taught to be humble and not stand out and don't brag and, whatever. So we minimize our gifts a lot. And then as far as just remembering what you love to do, one of my favorite exercises is write write a list of 30 things you love to do. And most people get stopped at two or three. And you have to really go backwards in time. And most of the time, it requires going back to remembering your childhood and what did you love to do as a kid? For me, it was like I was always getting lost in the wilderness. I loved digging in the dirt. I loved riding with horses. I loved climbing trees. Everything was about outside and adventure. And the moment when I was diagnosed with cancer, looking at my life, there was no outside, there was no adventure, there was no play, there was no exploration, there was no getting lost in the woods, right? It was like
Mhm.
mom and work and business and groceries and carpools. And like there was nothing of what I loved to do in my life anymore. So really going back to childhood, how did you spend your time is a huge window into that.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And I'm the same way. I'm like an outside adventure person. And when I was with my ex-husband, I didn't do any of that for years,
Right.
years and years. And now it's so funny because I travel all over. I'm planning on like hiking Angel's Landing for my birthday. I'm going to two national parks for spring break with my son. We just went snowboarding last weekend. Like now I am like prioritizing that as a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how you think that like taking the time to do those things is going to take away from time with your family, working on your business, whatever. But I found that when I prioritize that time and that joy within my life, all of the other areas of my life thrive.
And you have to like make yourself do those things in the beginning
Mhm.
to see that. But it is so true. Same when I'm working, 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 I feel like I'm suffocating everything in my life and my team feels it. I feel it. My kids feel it. But when I take like the Fridays off to go ski or mountain bike, it changes the entire game because you're taking care of yourself and you're fueling yourself with that love and that excitement and that adventure. And you have to fill your cup, right? Which is so much easier said than done.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's really important to recognize that even when we have like a value fueled purpose in our jobs, in our businesses, whatever, it's still easy to get burnt out and get lost in the minutia of running a business. And so it's really important to still prioritize like doing things outside of that fulfill that for us.
Yeah, 100%. I am guilty of that myself, and I have to have that reminder constantly. And usually I have to get to the point where I'm really feeling it. And then it's like, okay, I recognize that I haven't been doing this for a couple of months now, and that's why I'm feeling this. So I am guilty of it too.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting that our body actually has like physical reactions to things when we're not doing the things that we're supposed to be doing or are aligned with us.
Yeah, I literally go into stress mode and I stop sleeping as well. I feel like I don't pay attention to like drinking water and eating food. I'll get to the end of the day and I'm like, wow, I haven't eaten anything today. It's a whole different world. It's not good.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of brings us back to you talking about the burnout that you felt in your business, even when you like had really created a very aligned, purpose-driven business, you got to that point of burnout and you're like, okay, I'm recognizing that I'm here. How do I move forward? And how did you kind of approach that decision where you're like, do I either kind of scale back to where I'm not feeling burnt out, or do I move forward and scale up? But that requires some other different kind of scary decisions like hiring on and
Mhm.
doing the things that come with that too.
Yeah, I've hit that point 2 times in my business. And I both what the first time there was no wanting to scale back. I had the desire to grow and have more impact. I didn't necessarily need more money because honestly, the more you grow your company, I think literally the less profitable it becomes because you do have so much overhead. And
Mhm.
so for me, it was like I could scale this back a little bit and still earn the same amount of money, which I think I was earning like 25 to 35,000 a month at the time. So I was doing great, and most of that was coming into my pocket. But for me, it was about impact. And I think what I learned through my cancer diagnosis and really taking a spiritual journey is that I'm here to have impact. And I really want to empower 1 million women to figure out what their purpose is and live it, right? Because I think that that's how we can start to change what's going on in the world is by all of us really being aligned with
Yeah.
who we are and putting our medicine out there. So that was when I was like, forget it, I'm not scaling back, but I've got to figure out a way to have more impact without killing myself at the same time. So that was when I really decided to scale the first time. The second time was when I was already earning over 100,000 a month and I ended up in a CEO position. Did not love it, hated it, did not love it, did not want to be managing teams, did not want to be worrying about cash flow, did not want to be talking about sales and marketing, hated it. And I had to, again, figure out scale back or put people in place so that I can do the parts of the business that I love to do, which is the coaching, the speaking, the writing the books, the creating the courses, working with my clients. And that, again, it's so important for me to have impact that that's again why I chose to continue to grow, but just move myself into the space where I wanted to be. And that's directly working with my clients.
Mm, I love that. Well, and I love that you recognize like that even with the growth, the things that you want to be doing are still possible for you to be able to do. Because I feel like sometimes we get to that point in our business where we're like in that CEO position, and it's like I put myself here, but now I'm not loving it, and I don't know how to like, get back to the things that I actually did really love about this business.
It happens with everyone who goes from a solopreneur to having a team and more of a company. You always are going to end up in that position. And you're always going to have to pivot, it's a case of pivoting constantly.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What would you say to the coaches out there? Because I know, a lot of our listeners and people that we've had on are coaches, that are really like, okay, I've made my programs, but I don't feel like they're thriving as much as they could be, or I'm not making the impact that I really wish I could be. What would you say to them about how to kind of create that impact and really grow?
Yeah, so the way that I teach it is different. But it just works. I teach in my it's a year-long program called Soul Business Accelerator, and it's essentially a roadmap to getting a coaching business to six figures or any kind of service-based business to six figures. And a lot of times I mean, we talk to, so many women each month, and they come to us and they're like, I've been trying to build this business and I'm posting on social media and I'm not getting anywhere, or I've had a couple of clients, or I'm earning 1,000 or 2,000 a month and I can't get past this plateau. And they start to doubt themselves and they start to think that maybe this isn't their purpose, or this isn't the business they're supposed to be doing, or maybe this isn't going to work for them. And what I say all the time is, no, that's not the case. You're just not marketing it in a way that's actually going to work. And so I like to break it down into internal marketing and external marketing. And internal marketing are strategies that are designed to keep in touch with, to create value for, and make offers to your already existing audience. So social media, right? You're providing content to and making offers to your followers. Well, only 1% of your audience will ever actually buy from you. And so once you've had a couple of clients, you're really tapped out, right? If you're running ads on social media, that's external marketing, but I don't ever say to do that until you already have 12 to 15,000 a month coming in of consistent, predictable, sustainable cash flow to reinvest back into those strategies. That's a scale strategy. So don't run ads in the beginning. But what I have you do to get to six figures organically is focus on external marketing. So getting in front of new potential leads, new potential clients. And then that way, when you are showing up on social media or you are emailing your list, you have new people every single month that you're making offers to, right? So you have a pipeline. And so my students in Soul Business Accelerator do a combination of a couple of things every month. A lot of them will hold what I've coined a signature workshop, is sort of the main front end strategy. It's a small, intimate workshop, either virtually or in person. Holding one of those a month, I can get those to where they convert 80%. So like if a student has 10 people show up, I can get it to where 8 of those will become your clients. Boom, you've already just filled, half of your coaching books right there. So one of those a month, you're always going to have a pipeline, right? You're always going to be getting in front of new people. And my clients love it because the signature workshop, it feels really soulful. It's not salesy at all. And you're actually getting to do your craft in that workshop. Like you're providing the insights, the value, the breakthroughs to your client. So it feels really good as a marketing strategy. Whereas when you're just posting on social media, most people hate it and it drains them, right? And then we use things like getting published in the media. A lot of my clients like to speak, so they're using speaking engagements. We figure out a combination of what works for them, but it's always got to be like 80% of what you're doing until you have a six-figure business needs to be external marketing and 20% internal. And when you make that shift, it will shift in your business.
I think that's really great to like recognize and say, because I do feel like there's a misconception when you start a business that like all your closest friends and family are going to want to support you and will buy from you. And the reality is that's just not true.
They're probably not your ideal clients. And then they don't have the sense of urgency to solve the problem that you want to help them solve. So don't take it personally. It's like literally sales.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And I think it's so interesting because I think a lot of people get really disappointed and like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this because the people that I know aren't buying it. But like you said, they're not your ideal client, and you need to really hone in to, okay, who is this actually going to work for? Who am I actually trying to help here? And finding those like external ways to reach those people, like you were saying.
100%. I don't know anyone in my immediate space, family and friends wise, that are my ideal clients. And if I were relying on them to buy from me to build a business, like you have an expensive hobby at that point. You don't have a business.
Yeah. No, it's true. Well, and I do think it's interesting that you brought up like the social media ads and things, because I do feel like that's kind of the first jump that people typically make into some sort of external marketing is just, okay, let's just throw an ad out there and see if it hits anything. But to actually create impact, you have to have some sort of really good thing that you're putting out there that's like a free kind of program or, template or something that really draws people into you. And it's a good way to kind of already hedge people into whatever you're doing to make sure that you're getting the right people in the door in the first place.
Yeah, you've got to have proof of concept before you start running ads. And it's such an expensive strategy that, I mean, the algorithms are always changing. And as someone who, I mean, now I earn, like I said, it's my business is at a different level. So I have cash flow. So I do use ads as a strategy now, but I'll lose sometimes literally 30,000 a month in ads. And like, okay, fine, it sucks, but it comes from my business revenue. So it's one thing. But if you're just starting out, and you're throwing a budget into ads that I mean, right now you definitely need at least $200 a day in ad spend to even make a dent. And that's not even guaranteed you're going to sign a client to earn that back. But that's your personal money you're pulling out of like savings or whatever. That's terrifying. That is scary. That'll bankrupt somebody. And it's like people should not be selling people into programs to do ads if they don't already have at least 10 to 12,000 a month coming in consistently through other channels. It's just too dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah, I think that's super cool though that you have really that like start to growing like programs available to really anybody in the coaching business, whether they're newbies or like already there and just really want to scale up.
Yeah, they're everything I wish I would have had when I was starting. I was trying to like piecemeal everything together. Like I'd work with this coach for this, and then I'd work with this, I'd take this course to learn this. And it was like, oh my gosh, I needed to get out of my marriage. I needed to earn 10,000 a month so I could leave my marriage and be able to support my kids on my own.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time to waste and I couldn't find it. There was nothing like it. And so once I hit the mark of, I was earning 500, 750,000 a month in my business. It was like, I'm going to create this now for people who are trying to hit that six-figure mark, and boom. It's everything you need in one spot, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. That is so cool. Well, I love it. And how has everything really shifted for you over the last couple years since you kind of dove into this as a brand new newbie?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, things are so different. I guess the biggest thing is one, I've shown my kids that as a single mom, you don't have to go backwards.
Mm,
That as a single mom, you don't have to rely on, I don't take any kind of child support, nothing like that. You don't have to rely on somebody else to give you money. You don't have to go to a job that you hate every day in order to survive, right? Like I've shown my kids that you can earn an incredible living doing what you love. And I try and really encourage them to have that entrepreneurial spirit even now. Like my daughter's out selling little candy canes door to door to raise money to donate stuffies to the children's hospital. Like she's already thinking about that, okay, that I'm creating this. She's not keeping the money herself, but she's already in that space. And my son is like wanting to learn day trading. So he's out there kind of doing his own thing at 13. And I think that's been really powerful too. But I guess, one thing that really landed well with me is I didn't have money growing up. I didn't come from a wealthy family. And when I left my marriage, I was starting over, right? Like I didn't have much in the bank. But I knew I had my business. I knew I had myself, that I could bet on myself as a lottery ticket, right? I knew that I would make this work if I really sat down and wanted to. And just the other day, I met with an estate planning lawyer because I'm getting everything kind of just finally tidied up and organized behind the scenes. And she presented me with the number that, if I were to die today, what my kids would get. And I didn't even have any idea that I had created all of that over the years. I mean, I burst into tears. I started crying, and that will change the game for generations in my family moving forward. And that is what I have been able to do since my divorce, and what I just love helping other women do as well.
yeah. It's really that generational impact that you get from doing something as simple as just like betting on yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
do not think that enough of us do that and really like have that core confidence and belief in ourselves that we can do whatever it's going to take. And sometimes it requires being thrown into those really tough, really hard positions to really know the inner strength that we have available.
I hate that so much, but it is so true. It's like every time, it's like we get refined by the fire, and it's so annoying that it has to be that way, but it truly does. I always tell people and myself, it's like whenever I'm going through a really hard time, I just have to remind myself that this too shall pass, and that what is on the other side of this, if I really lean into this hard time and get clear on what I'm supposed to learn through it, and I don't do the things to like numb it out, I feel it, I work through it, I cry, I'm, whatever. And then the ideas start to come. And 6 months later, a year later, 18 months later, whatever, you look back and you're like, thank God that happened.
Mhm.
It was terrible at the time, but thank God that happened, because I wouldn't have made the shift, or I wouldn't be where I am today. And yeah, it just becomes so clear.
Mhm. It sucks, really
Yep.
sucks in those
Really
moments, but
sucks.
also like that I always tell people that like when you feel that fire, it just means that you're ready to move up into the next level and it's preparing you for whatever you need, upcoming.
Yeah. And the breakthroughs always happen after the breakdowns. Isn't that what they say?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So last question here for the person out there that's like ready to level up, to really hone in to their value-driven purpose, what tip, trick, tool would you give them?
Ooh, good question. Well, I think honestly, one, keeping in mind the formula that I had said before, that's just so key to figuring out what it is. And also, that's like the vehicle, the combination, like I said before, of your divine gifts combined with what you naturally love. And how can you put those two together to then create value in the world? That is your vehicle to all of it, to happiness, to success through purpose. When you're really truly following that and sticking to it, everyone's life, it just takes off. Life just takes off.
Mhm. It really does. Well, and I loved those kind of like three things that you said there to kind of dive into that and find it. And I think anybody can do it. And whether you're trying to build a business or you're just trying to like find whatever your next step is, it's a good way to really define that and find a way that you can have the life that you're dreaming of. Because I think too much we kind of just get stuck in that rut and think that that's the way it has to be, and it doesn't. Like, you're proof of that. I'm proof of that, that you can change things and completely upset your life and end up better on the other side of it.
Yeah, 100%. It's like if you just throw the grenade in the air, let it explode, and the pieces will land where they're meant to.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on with us today. I think this was such a great and needed conversation for us powerful women that are out here to make changes for ourselves, for our families, and for like just people as a whole. I think if more women turned into their God-given purpose, the world would be a heck of a lot better. So,
I
thank you for
agree.
sharing with us today. Where can we find you? I know we just kind of talked a little bit about some of the programs that you have going on. So give us a deeper dive into those and where we can find you, sign up for all the things.
Yeah, thank you. Well, ericacarrico.com has a free training right on the homepage, the strategy that I teach to get your business to six figures without social media. And then if you click on work with me, you'll see my Awaken Your Purpose program, private coaching, soul business accelerator, everything's there. And I do a ton of live trainings on Instagram. Yeah, we're on YouTube. We're all over. So just Google and and dive in and message us if you need anything.
Perfect. And you guys really help people that are like just trying to figure out what they're going to do, to coaches who already have programs and want to scale, correct?
Yep, we help you figure out all the way from what business you want to start to once you know, we help you grow that to six figures. And then more of my private coaching space is helping six-figure business owners scale to the $1 million mark.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. This was so great. I loved having you on. So thanks, Erica.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mompreneur Podcast. And if you like this episode as much as we did, give us a follow so we can invite you back every Wednesday. And of course, share it on all your socials. Being a confident mompreneur means uncovering your strengths and struggles so you can dive in and learn how your next steps could be your greatest.